Hello, this is Matthew Mount. Happy Labor Day. And this is the time when the federal unemployment extension is either almost about to expire, or if you live in some states, it's already ended. And so here I am, Rock Falls, Illinois, on the Rock River, and we're going to watch the sunrise. That's kind of the intention here. Watch the sunrise on the river. One of the things that this does here reminds us that even in the worst situations, even the worst scenarios, that the sun rises tomorrow. And so basically that's what we have to look forward to. We have the sun rising to look forward to. I know that for some of you it may be hard, really hard. Maybe you're like me. I was being considered for a district management position, and I was being considered for that as a promotion. Been with the company for 10 years, and what happened there is COVID-19 shutdowns occurred. Did some sanitization there at a store for over 110 days straight, and then I got I don't want to say laid off, but didn't have any more work, had to go on unemployment. Now I want to tell you that there were companies that considered me for positions, various positions that could have paid as well, if not better, to the district management position. But usually, for one reason or another, I didn't get those positions. Sometimes there were positions that had some kind of there's some kind of physical fitness requirement. Like sometimes they required a lot of push-ups and sit-ups, maybe run a mile or 2 miles. Positions like a deputy sheriff position, as an example, or some other types of jobs in government. Some of those jobs, they require you to have real good physical fitness, and sometimes it's other stuff too. Like sometimes the jobs, they want you to have good credit, really good credit, and sometimes it's other stuff. Well, whatever the situation is, I want you to know the sun will rise tomorrow. I mean, this is an important thing to think about, to consider. I mean, we live in a world that sometimes it's kind of unforgiving. Sometimes you make a mistake or something, or maybe like you're the run of the litter, and then that's kind of the end of it. And because people believe in evolution so strongly, a lot of times, survival of the fittest, it's like they want to find winners and make winners win even more. And I'm not saying that I'm a loser by any means, and I'm not saying you're a loser. But what I will tell you is that everybody has different talents, and it's important that if you're listening to this and maybe you're not unemployed, maybe you're a young person and looking at entering the workforce at some time. Excuse me there. I ran over here, but it's important. That's why I'm kind of out of breath. But it's important if you're a young person listening to this and you're kind of new to all this. The first job that you have, you want to do well at it. You want it to be a really good match for you. Like when you graduate from college and you go out and you get a job, you want it to be the job that matches best to you and who you are, and because you don't want to be in a situation where you graduate from college, you get into a job that's a bad match for you, and then you appear to be the run of the litter, and then everything bad happens from you then on out. When maybe you're not. Maybe you're the next star. And so, but just in a different field. And so, like, some of these things, what we want to do is we want to try to find sometimes different ways, regardless of who you are and regardless of your situation, different ways of utilizing, like, who you are, kind of, I've heard the term remarketing yourself. Basically, maybe if you were a person that did sales in the past, maybe you might have to look into maybe not sales, but maybe something similar that uses similar skills and uses your talents and who you are more. I know that for me, as an example here, I mean, I did work at a sales and marketing company for over 10 years, and I've looked at a lot of different jobs. A few of them had to deal with sales, but I've looked at all kinds of different jobs that don't involve sales. And I know that with my education, I mean, I have everything but the dissertation toward a doctorate degree in business administration. I also have a master's degree in business administration. And so, I look at those things and I think, you know what? I don't necessarily have to do a business job. Like, I could do a job in government, law enforcement even. I do a job where I'm maybe like a public representative of the organization that I serve. And that would be maybe some of the same skills, but different, kind of applied differently. I know with the COVID-19 shutdowns, a lot of you guys got your jobs eliminated. And maybe they're not coming back anytime soon, like mine. There's still stuff done with what I used to do before the shutdowns, but it's not as much. Not by any means. There's still a little bit here and there, but like, people, they just don't want to have food served to them in small sample quantities that are not prepackaged unless they have to sometimes. I mean, when things are bad with public health. And so, like, some of these issues, I'm going to tell you, it's just we have to deal with sometimes. I know that it can be hard looking at the end of unemployment. Maybe you don't know what you're going to do. Maybe you're going down from looking at a job that paid 60 grand or 72 grand down to a job that pays 12 or 13, or maybe at the most 20. And you don't know how you're going to survive. And you don't know what's going to happen. I understand these things, and I'll tell you what, in my life, I've been through a lot of things. I know that, with going to college for 20 years, there were times when I stayed awake for 72 hours straight, and I did college study, and I did a couple jobs, and did all kinds of things. Did all kinds of work for school. And then at the end of all that, I didn't have a job that paid a lot of money. At the end of that, there were people that didn't go through all that, and they had far better jobs than me. So I know it might be frustrating for you. Maybe you might feel like that. You might feel like the guy that everybody kicks in the nuts. And you might feel like you're just down and out. And just completely out. And you might feel like things are never going to get better. But I'll tell you what, things can get better. And you can have a long life to live. So, if you look at the time and you see, well, this is the rock bottom, there's only up to look from there, if it truly is a rock bottom. Because when people get to the very bottom, the bottom of the well, as it were, there's no more looking down, there's only looking up. So, that's basically what you have to look forward to. The looking up. And I'll tell you what here. This is a nice, quiet Labor Day. I can see, looks like there's a swan in the river here even. The sun is rising. This is a beautiful day. It's a beautiful morning the Lord has made. And we should rejoice and be glad in it. And I'll tell you what, it could be a blessing in your life even, believe it or not. If you lost your job and you're looking to transfer to a new one, maybe the old job you had wasn't for you. Maybe you can do better. And I'll tell you what, like I say, I went to college for a long time, 20 years. 20 years of undergraduate and graduate school, and had a lot of study in school. For a very long time. I'm just going to pan this here, be able to see more of the river. And you see the shut down factories on the other side of the river here. And the bridge that nobody goes across. Well, people do cross it, but nobody's crossing it right now except for maybe one car. And this is kind of early in the morning. But this area where I'm living at right here, I've had a decline in population for the last 40 years. Now, if you have any idea how bad that is, normally people, when they have families, they add to their families, and their families get bigger. And normally you have population growth. But this area for 40 years has had a decline in population. Not a growth, a decline. And so, people here, they got a shrinking economy. And it's hard to imagine how bad that is unless you're in something like that. But I'll tell you what, just because things are like that where you live, it doesn't mean that things are going to be like that all your life. You might find that moving is what you need to do. You might find that might not just be moving. You might have to. You might find that there's other stuff that you need to do as well to basically get ready to have your next job. sometimes people they don't go from job to job. Sometimes they create a business. Create a good business, a strong business. And not something like people come to you and sell and promote and you have to buy in and then you got a business. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like if you're good at mowing and you decide to do landscaping. I'm talking about if you got a truck and you decide to buy a plow, and you then decide you're going to plow the snow in the wintertime and charge people money for it. I'm talking about like, you find you got all kinds of junk in your house and you decide you're going to have a pawn shop. Pawn shops, that don't take advantage of the poor, of course, but you get the idea. A thrift shop or something. You find that, maybe in your life situation that you're poor and you have nothing, and you say, you know what, this is a great opportunity for me. I can go out and travel hundreds of miles on a bus, relocate to an area where the industry's booming, and make over 100 grand a year, go to a thriving church even, and maybe not be socially isolated. I mean, there can be opportunities out there you hadn't even thought of. And that's where you have to look at those and take advantage of whatever opportunities are out there that you think you can fit well with, and that are good fit for you, good fit for the business, good fit for the opportunity. Some opportunities, as we all know, are total scams. I don't think I have to tell you that. Sometimes you put your information out there on the web and then people try to contact you and they're total con artists and they're trying to get you to send them a check, and they're going to claim they're going to send you a check, and it usually doesn't work that way. A lot of times that's a scam, and that's what you want to avoid. But I'll tell you what, not all hope is gone. You might be in a situation where maybe there's millions of you guys and you're all unemployed, and you're thinking, you know what, this is the end. And you don't have a job, you don't have income coming in from unemployment. Maybe you're behind on rent for like 8 months or God knows what, and you don't know what you're going to do. And I'll tell you what, there's always opportunity out there. I know it sounds hard to believe. I'm going to pan again across the river. I know it seems hard to believe sometimes, but there's always opportunity out there. You see the nice reflection of the buildings, calm, still air, how wonderful this is. I'm going to make a comment about the river here. You see, I've lived here for 40 years in the same city. But it wasn't until I became unemployed that I really started looking at the river and really started to explore the river, the things that God has given us. And it wasn't until then, and then I realized how great of a treasure this is. Something that's so beautiful, so wonderful at sunrise, wonderful at sunset. I walked often 2.1 miles between my house where my mother lives at nighttime during the times I've been unemployed and make sure that everything's going well with my mother. Sometimes wash laundry or whatever when I'm not looking for jobs, and when when it is like nighttime sometimes. And I'll tell you, I've walked through weather that's like -9 degrees below zero with like wind chill that is just unbelievable. I mean, and I've walked miles through that. And I'll tell you what, I had a view of this river that was amazing, breathtaking. Something almost made me cry. It was so beautiful at night. In the winter with the snow, like 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, there's no cars. Everything's still. I hadn't even thought about taking videos of it, and even if I did, I mean, camera does only so good in low light, but it wouldn't really give it justice. But I'll tell you what, those are the kind of things that you don't experience when you're zooming down the street with a car at nighttime and you're freezing cold. And there was just a fish that jumped out of the river there. Believe it or not, I mean, these are things that when you're going down the street 30 miles an hour, you don't look at that. You're just doing everything you can to go from point A to point B. And I'll tell you what, sometimes when we look at all the good things out there, all the things the Lord has made and has given us, one of the things we find here is we find that God is good. God's incredibly good. This river is not something that was made by man. This was made by God. And God made it for us, for our enjoyment. I mean, I'm going to pan here. Okay, those abandoned buildings on the other side of that river there, those were made by man. Those weren't necessarily made entirely by God. That was man. So I'm panning back here. But this river was made by God. Some of these banks made by man. That power line structure across the river there, that's made by man. If you didn't have that power line, if you didn't have the dam up there, and you didn't have the banks, then this would be even more of a paradise maybe than it already is. And but that's not to say that those things are bad. The factories are good. When they do their job, when people do their job, and when people are able to provide for their families, and there's no pollution and things are going well, then it's good. It's very good. Especially if that's the best people can do with their life, then that's very good. And if they like working there and they're happy, and all the stuff that people produce there makes people happy, then it's very good. It's very, very good. But it's kind of bad when the windows kind of are torn out and they're falling out, and they're just letting the raccoons in, and that's not always good. So I want to tell you here, one of the things I know in my life here, I've been applied to a doctorate degree of public policy there. I was looking at public administration degrees as well, but applied to a doctorate of public policy and economic policy and got accepted. And I'll tell you what, I've thought about thus taking advantage of that, going back to school, even though I've already gone to school for 20 years already. And I've thought, there's something going on today. There are people that believe that machines have basically taken every walk of life with labor, that they are able to count change. People are able to, check out with them at grocery stores. They're able to scan shelving inventory, and they're able to decide what needs to be pulled from the back room to be put on the shelf, what needs to be ordered, for the store. The machines, I even have footage of machines like cleaning the floors there in a store and doing it automatically without any human running it. Formally running it. And there's machines in factories, and a lot of this is robotics and artificial intelligence, and people have said, since we got so many machines, we got so much AI technology and robotics, that in the future people will be getting vehicles delivered to them by drones, or they not vehicles, but they get deliveries brought to them by drones. Or maybe in the future people are thinking that there will be semi-trucks that will drive themselves. They'll have AI systems that will drive themselves, and people are thinking that in the future that a lot of jobs will be obsolete, and there will be only a few jobs, and people will have a choice of either doing a job or just not doing a job, and maybe living off the government, or maybe just living off of other people, or somehow having some kind of produce from what the machines make and living off of that. I don't know, but the question that people have asked is it right that the government just provides everybody for all their needs all the time, and that people don't have jobs and don't do anything other than just enjoy the fruit of the bounty, as it were. Those are some hard questions for the future. I'm going to tell you, though, that just because your unemployment may be ending soon, or maybe it's already ended and you don't know what to do, and you can't get any extensions, let's say, maybe you're in a place like this that has had a declining population for decades and the economy shrinking, and you don't know what to do. Pray to God. Also too, I pray that things go well for you. If you believe and you're baptized, and you haven't opposed the knowledge of God in any severe ways or anything, then certainly, God bless. If you're not baptized, God bless you too, but I would certainly pray that you do get baptized. But I would pray that things go well for you. That you're able to find meaning in your life, able to have some kind of opportunities, be able to have an overabundance of good things, and not just be out in the cold because of something bad that's happened with the economy. It might not even been any of your doing, and may not have been something that was even in your control. So I guess that's what I have to say today. I'm going to pan a little bit more here too, and I'm going to pan a little bit the other way here, so you can see the sun. It's already risen, so you're not going to see the sunrise directly over the river because the sun, it rose, but it rose sort of to the side of us. But you are going to see a beautiful Labor Day river. And I want to tell you here before I go, my great-grandfather, he was one of the first labor union leaders in the nation. He was one of the pioneers of the labor unions and labor movement in the United States. And well, I'll first say that bridge is awfully calm. There's no cars on that, and this is early in the morning here. But my great-grandfather, like I say, he was one of the pioneers of the early labor movement there, and when it was brand new, and he was the vice president of his labor union, something that he helped start. And at his time, things were really hard. Things you might not know where the term railroaded comes from. And I'll tell you where it comes from there is that the railroad industry, way back in his day, maybe even before then, it was really, really bad. And people got railroaded. You know, they got basically gypped out of their wages, and one way or another, you know, their lives were messed up because of the railroad industry. You know, a lot of long hours, and I don't think people got paid sometimes, and if they did, then it was not what they were expecting. And so people got railroaded. It wasn't just the railroad. It was all sorts of businesses out there. And children doing labor without going to school. You know, there weren't really schools, from what I understand, that educated the public for a while. People lived in a lot of freedom back then, in a lot of ways, but in other ways they didn't. You know, they had to do jobs without education, and you know, and things were bad, and you didn't have the medical knowledge or treatment, the standards that you do today. And you know, colleges did exist back, I think, even in the late 1800s, even here in the United States. Even before that, around the East Coast, they existed for a long time, like, you know, close to the founding of the nation even. But, you know, around your areas that were being settled there, some of the states that were settled early, or I should say later, some of the states that were settled later, they didn't have a lot of school systems and education and stuff like that, and children worked in factories long hours and did dangerous jobs, and it was a scary thing, and sometimes people got paid next to nothing, and sometimes your business owners, you know, they might have won really big and everybody else lost. And so that's where the labor movement comes from. You know, that's why we got a Labor Day, you know, and as far as I know, that's what it's all about, you know, and so I would say keep in mind things get better over the years, you know, and overall, generally, things usually always get better. Sometimes people, they talk about the mark of the beast and stuff like that, you know, and they say that we're living in those times, and you know, keep in mind too that there were times when the the ancient Roman Empire was real strong, and Christians were being fed to the lions, and you know, there was martyrdom of all sorts of Christians, and there was even, I think, even a law that stated that people had to sacrifice to the Roman gods, I think it was, which aren't even gods at all, and they had to have a certain thing to prove that they did, and sometimes people got it forged and stuff, and you know, and things just incredibly bad, incredibly bad, and you know, and we think our times are tough, and in comparison, sometimes they're not. I mean, sometimes they're not even close to tough compared to that. And that's what people, a lot of times, they forget or they don't understand. And so, I mean, keep that in mind. You know, this is, like, if you go on the street and things don't go well for you this Labor Day, then I'll tell you what, I'll pray for you. You know, leave your name in the comments here. I can pray for you. We can pray for you. If you see other people like that, pray for them as well. Pray for each other. But, you know, it's like, there was an economics professor I once had, and he said, the richest man in the little city, and basically said pretty much in a lot of ways he can be poorer than the poorest man in the big city. So the richest man in the little city, the economics professor claimed, can be poorer in a lot of ways than the poorest man in the big city. And you know, there's some, believe it or not, there's a little bit of truth to that. I'm not trying to offend anybody in little cities or anything, but you know, when you live in a big city, you got everybody's talents right there. You know, you got sometimes marble walkways. You know, sometimes you have shops that you don't have around here. You got parks you don't have in a small city. I mean, you got a greater variety of free services that you don't have in a small city. You know, you got museums and school, educational opportunities that you don't have in a small city. And when you live in a small city, sometimes you have to go pretty far to get those things, and it costs you. It costs you a lot, even. And when you live in a big city, you know, you got a lot going for you a lot of times. You live in a big city, the people that are key people that make key decisions, they can be practically at your shoulders. You know, right there, right next to you. And you live in a small city and they're way away. You know, but you live in a big city, and sometimes the reason why you don't succeed, sometimes it could be the way you dress. It could be that you need to present yourself better, you know, and your talents and what you have to offer. You know, it can be a number of factors like that. You know, maybe it could be you know, I can't even imagine. It could be all kinds of things. I'm not even going to speculate at this point. But anyway, to make a long story short, to summarize, people often like the verse, God is love. And I'll tell you what, that's something to think about, meditate on this Labor Day with the employment situation the way it is, you know, with the unemployment extensions ending. But God is love. God, Christ He lives to make intercession for us that believe, and He lives to make intercession, and God is love. And so those are good, important, key things to think about. Whether it's things here related to you, your family, those that that God is love. And you want to walk in love and love one another if you can. And meditate on God's love. That God might be working the things in your life for your good, and you might not even know it. But God is merciful too. And so if you haven't prayed today, I encourage you to. And maybe even give yourself to Christ. But pray that you would like to offer yourself to God through Christ as a living sacrifice. Sacrificing your whole life to Him so that you can be in Him and be in God's love and walk in God's love. So goodbye for now. God bless. God keep you. God love you. God keep you safe and love you forever.